find other great podcasts like this one at podmoth.network.
Beautiful. Everything's looking good.
Yep.
Happy and smart.
All my lines are making sense. All my colors look the best.
All my ducks are in a row, and I think by this time we're ready to go.
Now I think we better start the show.
In olden days, a glimpse of femur was only for morbid dreamers, but you're not alone. Bring anything bones. Two goofy gals with deathly interest go on a skeleton inquest in your headphones. Anything bones.
Hello, and welcome to Anything Bones. I'm Sophie Schwartz.
I'm Caitlin Hart, and it's 2022, bonehead bitches.
I can't believe another year has come to pass, but with such familiar with antiquity, we know the past treads behind us quickly.
Yes, 2021 was a rough one, but we made it, and it's a new year. You know, it's kind of a chance for a little reset. I don't know.
Yeah,
I like the new year.
Definitely. I like the new year, too. It always does throw me off to write the new dates.
Yeah.
I was at work trying to do allocations, and I kept writing 21, and I was like, damn it, I'll be confusing people so much. They'll be like, the sweater came back a year ago? But I was curious, Katoon, do you have any new bones resolutions going into 2022?
New bone resolutions. Wow. Well, I think a couple things. I love to acquire tasteful bone art for my home. So anytime I see that, I want to keep doing that.
Yes.
Also, I would love to do more bonus content and maybe start a Patreon someday.
Yeah. I love those new bones resolutions. You have such a beautifully appointed home, so I'm glad that you'll keep your collection of creepy yet tasteful items going.
Yeah, I want it to be a little bit of a museum of weird vibe, but tasteful.
Yeah, I love that. And I think definitely more bonus content coming at you in 2022.
What are you going to wish for in the new bone year?
Oh, who, me? Well, I think my new bones resolutions, because we share a brain most of the time, one of my new bones resolutions is to buy more bones for my personal space. We live near a store called Ballyhoo, and it's a beautiful curiosity shop where we go for everything from a fun afternoon to gifts for almost anyone. And I always see they have jars of jaw bones, all animal. They do have human bones, but I'm strongly against owning the bones of other humans. But I want to say to myself, when you see a bone you want, buy that bone. That's for 2022 is buy that bone. It can be literal, it can be metaphorical. If there's something you want, buy that bone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Treat yourself.
Treat yourself, buy that bone. My second new bones resolution would be to continue to look into archaeology in more like underserved parts of the world on our podcast. I would like to do more stories in Africa. I would like to do more stories in like Russia and Eurasia. I think these are places, Australia, places we haven't super covered on the podcast very well. So I'd love to do that.
Expand our bone universe.
Exactly. All history is interesting. The world is just covered with fascinating places and people and cultures. And then my final new bones resolution is to continue my crusade about the knowledge of cremation. Everyone should know that it takes at least 2,000 degrees and prolonged exposure to the heat to cremate a human body. A normal fire just won't do it.
Yeah, that's right. We learned this in the Solder Children, but learned. We all knew it before that, hopefully. But
hopefully.
If you're new here, welcome, and now you know.
Now you know. If there's one thing you take away from this fucking podcast, please. A normal fire cannot cremate a human body.
And we don't want you to have that knowledge, for nefarious purposes, because we want you to use that knowledge for good. So, like, if someone says, oh, those people evaporated into thin air because of a fire. Just be curious about that. Don't use that knowledge to kill people and burn their bodies.
Yeah, or if your friend is planning a rogue cremation, home style, say out in Joshua Tree, and you're a famed folk musician, and your father wants your body back in Louisiana, that's going to take more than 5 gallons of gasoline to cremate
What
you.
was that guy's name again?
Was that something Parsons?
Thomas? No. Brad?
No, my first thing was Jim Parsons, but I think he is from the Big Bang
That's
Theory.
definitely a modern alive actor.
Yeah, that is definitely a modern alive actor. I believe it is in my notes.
Future Sophie could also tell us the answer.
Graham Parsons.
Yeah.
Graham Parsons. That's who it is.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So if you're friends with Graham Parsons in the past, rethink your actions. But our actions are quite firm today because we came here with business, as we always do.
Bone business.
Bone business. Get your bone briefcase, open it up, it's filled with bones, throw them out on the conference table, and get the donuts out. It's time for bone business.
Please keep the bones and the donuts separate.
If you can.
There are napkins everywhere for you. There are, big donut tweezers.
And if I see you using your tie as a napkin again, Dale,
I'll kill you.
Fire you.
Oh,
I'll kill you. Fire you from life.
All right. Should we get down to
Bonesness? Yeah.
Jesus?
Let's get down to bonesness.
To go to New Orleans. Okay. So
is that where we're going?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to take us today. Quickly, my sources for this one were NOLAghost.com, Smithsonian Magazine, which is just a wonderful source of information, filmdaily.com, Wikipedia, of course, and then Morbid Podcast, episode 9. So today, I'm going to talk about the infamous and scary Axeman of New Orleans.
Well, we love an Axeman.
He was a murderer, and you'll never guess what his choice of weapon was. Can you guess?
Oh, would he kill people with rope?
Yeah. No. No. He mostly used an axe, but he also used a straight razor a lot of the time, which is terrifying.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. I don't like it when people do that.
Yeah. And I'm gonna say right off the bat, if you are like me and you have seen American Horror Story Coven, you have actually seen a portrayal of the Axeman of New Orleans. He was a character on American Horror Story Coven.
Ooh, I love when they do that on TV shows like that are historical fiction.
Yeah.
Like, have someone like play that like a real person. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it was spooky and good. I don't know. I am so hit or miss on American Horror Story, to be frank, but I really liked Coven. Okay, so the Axeman of New Orleans was active in about like 1918 to 1919 in, you guessed it, New Orleans.
It'd be strange if he was killing people in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah. So World War I was coming to a close, and, we were really getting to the beginnings of jazz music. So
hell yeah.
Set yourself in time.
Ooh, the jazz age. Mwah. Amazing music. Terrible racism.
Yes, definitely. We're going to talk about that a little bit, actually. So axes are not really, like, common these days. Like, it's kind of sketchy to own an axe right now. If
you live in the city, yeah.
Yeah, if you live in the city, you go over to someone's house and they've just, like, got an axe.
Well, do you remember that we used to have an axe at the greenhouse?
Oh, yeah, why did you have that?
I cannot remember where we found it, but it was a dull axe. I think it might have been in the basement of the house.
Oh.
I'll have to check with the boys.
Good. And it was just like
Perfect,
a weapon.
Yeah. I worked at the bridal shop at that time, so sometimes I would go home and I would take the axe into the backyard and just hack the shit out of the ground to get out my frustration.
Retail frustration.
Yeah, after being someone's absolute servant for the whole day.
Sure. Damn it.
But it's sketchy to own an axe. We were kind of sketchy people. Continue.
Yeah, It's a little bit weird to have an axe, but back in these days, like, everybody had an axe. It was totally commonplace. And that was kind of one of the hallmarks of this case, is that this guy would never use his own axe. He would always find one there.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So creepy. So he would he would break into people's homes in the middle of the night. So everybody was asleep when they were attacked. And nobody really saw him because he would make sure everybody was asleep before he came in. And he would always remove a panel on a back door with a chisel. And they always, or not always, but they often found chisels at the crime scene. He would just leave everything behind after he committed these crimes.
I can't tell if that's incredibly smart or incredibly dumb.
Well, the thing about it, too, is that he would just chisel, a small piece out of the door. So some people are like, how the fuck did he get in and out of this, small hole in the door? I kind of think he, broke a piece of the door, reached up, and undid the lock, but who knows?
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but it's an interesting way to break in.
Ugh, it's creepy. He wasn't a robber, though. He never stole anything from the homes. He just broke in and did really horrible things to the people inside who were asleep in their beds.
Yeah, you almost wish he was a robber.
Yeah, it's yeah. Colin and Damon Wilson, they're criminologists. They think that the Axeman was targeting male victims only when they were getting in the way of killing the female victims. Because I guess more often than not, the woman of the household was murdered, but not the man.
Oh, he hates women. How original.
Another theory is that the murders were an attempt to promote jazz music. But we're gonna get to that a little bit later. Do you not know the connection to jazz in this story?
I don't think I do, unless it's just racism.
I'm about to blow your mind. No. So, not so good. This is not mind-blowing. Majority of the Axeman's victims were Italian or Italian American. They often were grocers, so they had corner grocery stores.
Who wants to attack people who own grocery stores?
It doesn't really make any sense. It's a really weird niche.
Yeah.
It's a weird subset of the population to target. Yeah. But because of this connection to Italian Americans, a lot of the media sensationalized the mafia connections in this case when there probably weren't any. There's no evidence to suggest a mafia connection. It's just like rumors. It kind of seems like.
They didn't find a piece of paper, on the victim that said bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah.
Sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah. And some people think that he was just a sadist, a racist and a sadist. Who knows? There's a lot of maybes and what ifs and questions in this case. So things get started in May 1918 with the attack of Joseph Maggio and his wife, Catherine. And you're going to hear this a lot. They were asleep in their beds. The killer broke in and then cut their throats right away with a straight razor and then bashed their heads in with the axe.
Oh, that's creepier than just going in full force, coming in hot, just swinging like a maniac. That's so
dark.
That crawls my skin. Mm-hmm. Katelyn, gross.
I know, sorry. Maybe this is a scary case, so trigger warning for scary case. The next assault took place June 27th, 1918. It was Louis Bessemer and his lover, Harriet Lowe. They were actually assaulted at the grocery store that he owned. He was hit with a little hatchet axe type thing, and then she was sliced over her left ear. And actually they both survived this attack, but it might have been a coincidence. Some people think that this is not connected to the Axeman case, but it happened in a grocery store and there was a hatchet involved. So who knows? It's
so it might not have even been this, because it doesn't sound like his MO at all.
It wasn't exactly his MO, because he usually broke into people's houses. He didn't usually break into stores. It was weird timing, you know?
Yeah.
Anna Schneider was attacked on August 5th, 1918. So this is happening like every month. She unfortunately was 8 months pregnant when she was attacked. And she survived and actually was like gave birth 2 days after to a healthy baby girl.
I mean, the strength on that one.
Yeah, like, it's remarkable.
Yeah, seriously. Kudos to that fucking woman for being a bam.
Yeah, God. So the next person to be attacked was Joseph Romano. He was looking after his nieces, Pauline and Mary Bruno, and this happened on August 10th, 1918. So this was like 5 days later. So scary. And the nieces like hear this commotion in the middle of the night, and they see the Axeman like fleeing their uncle's room. Their uncle Joseph he died 2 days after the attack. So it just, really scary.
Were the girls okay?
Yeah.
Ugh, that's so terrifying and horrible.
Yeah, just so scary. So these attacks were taking place in New Orleans, and then nearby in a place, Gretna, Louisiana, which sounds like is not that far away from New Orleans. Charles Cortimiglia and his wife Rosie were attacked along with their baby Mary.
The baby?
Yeah. Yeah. This one's a really rough one, so maybe skip ahead 15 seconds if you don't like child death. Nobody does. But if you can't hear about that, I can't
skip ahead.
I know. If you can't hear about that, skip ahead now. Okay. This happened on March 10th, 1919. The Cortimiglias were attacked in their beds. The baby was like clutched in her mother's arms and died as a result of her injuries. I'm just going to go on a quick tangent here because I think this like murder is particularly interesting in the whole span of things. So the police in Gretna were like convinced that this wasn't a Axeman attack. They thought that it was the neighbors for some reason. Their names were Orlando and Frank Giordano, and they were also Italian grocers, and they were like business competitors and had recently been to court with the victims. There wasn't any evidence implicating them until the police like harassed the wife, Rosie, and like her doctors said like she doesn't know who attacked her, but by the time she left the hospital, she was only released actually from the hospital when she signed an affidavit that implicated her neighbors.
Wow.
So I don't know.
That's intense.
Yeah, I don't know why the police were so like hell-bent on getting this father and son behind bars.
Maybe it had something to do with kind of aggression against Italians.
Yeah, racism.
But also like
good old-fashioned racism.
But also, I bet cops all around there were feeling the pressure to get someone for like this stuff, and I bet they were like, oh, we got him.
It's gotta be the other Italian that's giving them shit in court. Like it's really weird, racist, nasty, no thank you.
But I bet this was not the end of it.
No. So the father and son go on trial. The only evidence against them is this identification by Rosie. The trial takes less than a week, and they're both convicted of murder. Dad is sentenced to life in jail, and the son was supposed to be executed.
Fuck.
It doesn't happen, luckily. 9 months later, Rosie goes into a newspaper office of the Times-Picayune, which is quite a fun word to say. And she says that St. Joseph had come to her in a dream, and he was like, you have to come clean about this. This is not okay. Because someone was about to die. Yeah. So she signs another affidavit saying that she never saw who attacked her and her husband and her baby. And even though at first the prosecution wasn't going to do anything about it, eventually in December 1920, the father and son do walk free. But I just thought that was an interesting, that's not really connected to the Axeman case totally, but it is just an interesting tangent, I thought.
Yeah, and clutch move by St. Joseph.
Yeah, thank you, St. Joseph, for telling her, yeah, it's probably time to help the 17-year-old avoid getting hung. So back to the Axeman murders in New Orleans and just outside New Orleans. The next victim was Steve Boca. He's attacked August 10th, 1919. He does survive. September 3rd, 1919, Sarah Lawman is attacked and recovers. And then possibly the last victim is Mike Pepitone on oh my God, I can't talk.
Pepitone.
Mike Pepitone. He was killed on October 27th, 1919. So that was on one source, and then Smithsonian Magazine was like, this murder of Mike Pepitone was not the Axeman. It was quote, actually appears to have been part of a long-standing vendetta.
Oh, wow.
No more information about that.
I mean, again, this is the gay opium den all over again. I want to know what kind of beef that guy has with a different guy where they're like, no, this is not part of the serial killing spree. This was his own thing. Like, what the fuck? What are you up to, bud?
No, it's wild. So, this is kind of the final piece of the story, and it's definitely crazy. So strap in.
I'm strapped.
So, I guess this happened, well, okay, the timeline's a little bit fuzzy. This apparently happened in March 1919, but then some of these attacks took place August 1919. So anyway, sometime around then.
History is a weird loop.
Yeah. And it also, when you're looking from different sources, sometimes the timeline isn't quite going to match up. Anyway, so apparently, I don't fucking know, most likely on March 13th, 1919, there was a letter that apparently the Axeman wrote and sent in to the papers.
Oh my God.
Do you want me to read this letter?
Yes, I want you to fucking read the letter that the Axeman wrote to the newspapers.
Okay. All right. Well, strap in.
I told you I'm strapped.
The letter starts, Hell, March 13th, 1919, as if to say, like, this is the location that I'm writing from.
Yeah, like, hello from hell.
Yeah. Here's the greeting.
Oh my God. God, he's so dramatic already. Go.
Esteemed mortal.
Jesus.
This is long, so stop me anytime.
Okay.
They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell.
Oh my God.
I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim other victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe, besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company.
Okay, I'm going to stop you for half a second here.
Okay.
Because listening to this, I wish y'all could see me. My eyes have been touching the back of my head. Like, this guy is so full of himself. This is like proto-incel bullshit. Like, the way he's like, I am above you. I look at your pitiful society. It's like, okay, Junker. Like, you know, I'm sorry that, like, you got rejected. Like, sorry, just like big incel energy coming from this letter. This world's creepiest letter. Like, the thing is that this would be scary, but it isn't, because it's so foolish. Continue.
If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty, Francis, Joseph, etc. He's like, everybody is laughing their asses off over here.
I mean, yes, but...
Okay.
God.
He sucks. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better that they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel sure the police will always dodge me, as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Okay?
Oh my God.
Undoubtedly.
What the fuck?
I know. He's wild. So undoubtedly, I'm getting back into character, please.
Please, let's hear the shift.
Undoubtedly, you Orlydians think of me as a most horrible murderer, which I am, but I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens, for I am in close relationship with the Angel of Death. We're closing in on the end here, everybody.
There's, like, not enough room on my forehead for my fucking eyebrows right now. They're, like, up having a party with my hair.
Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe.
So help me fucking God, if you're not out there jazzing it out, I'm gonna come to your house and literally kill you.
Last paragraph. Well, as I am cold and crave the warmth of my native Tartarus, no idea.
Okay, yes.
And it is about time I leave your earthly home. I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been, am, and will be the worst spirit that ever existed, either in fact or realm of fantasy, the Axeman.
Boo fucking who? Jesus Christ, jazzing it up. Oh my God. What? Okay, so we went from, hi, I'm the Axeman, I work for Satan, I hate you all, I laugh at what you do, but you know how you can save yourself? It's jazz.
That's exactly
like,
right.
What?
Yep.
Like, okay, so this is the connection to jazz.
Yes, yes.
But, like, I doubt. I mean, I don't know, man, if this is the actual murder.
Who knows?
Writing.
Who knows? They never solved this fucking case, so... But that night, March 13th, the letter was published on March 13th, but then he was supposed to come through New Orleans on March 19th, and that night, like, every dance hall was filled to capacity, every jazz band was booked for the night, like, and people would just played all night long, just in case, and nobody died that night, actually.
Weird theory, but maybe this is a form of, like, radical self-care promotion. He's like, y'all need to party. I'm going to threaten all of your lives. Like, what is the rationale? Like, I do love the idea of, like, of that being the defense against this murder. Like, it just reeks of something that would happen, like, in the Middle Ages. Like, where they're like, you must have a band playing in your house to ward off the evil spirit.
Yeah.
But it's, like, 1919. That's so late for that bullshit.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I love this story, Caitlin. It is bonkers.
Thank you. I thought you'd like that letter.
Hey, jazz! So help me God, if you're not jazzing it up. Me and my axe, I will find one in your house and I will kill you. If you are not jazzing it up, how do you take someone seriously if they're telling you to jazz it up?
You can't. But, I mean, people were scared.
I would be too. I would be like, where is my fucking trumpet? We are going to jazz it up.
Yeah, I'm going to do this for days just in case. Let's go, Bobby.
Bobby, you better get your fucking trumpet. I got my upright bass and we will save lives tonight.
So, just a little fun fact. A song written about the Axeman is my favorite thing ever. It's by Joseph John Davila. Yes. It's called The Mysterious Axeman's Jazz. And then in parentheses, don't scare me, Papa.
Don't scare me, Papa. Don't you fucking dare.
So there are some other cases that kind of resemble the Axeman's MO in other parts of Louisiana in 1920 and 1921. But again, nothing is ever conclusively solved, and we don't actually know who the Axeman is. Now, there are theories, of course, but it's pretty bleak.
Jeez.
Yeah, he just came as quickly and mysteriously as he went, this fucking guy. So some people...
Who do they think it is?
Well, some people think it was a demon, like a supernatural ghost.
Okay, fine. Yeah, that is what the letter said.
Because yeah, that is what the letter said. That's what he told us. And also he was able to like slither in and out of houses without anybody really ever getting a good look at him.
And New Orleans is haunted as fuck, and that was,
so
well known at the time.
Yeah, so we're not totally past that one. I mean, he was something.
Yeah, seriously.
There's a theory that it was some kind of hate crime because a lot of the victims were Italian. There's also a theory that there was no Axeman at all, and that like there was one murder and then other like copycats got inspired to do the same thing.
I think there were definitely copycats.
Yeah, it kind of, who knows? But it definitely, it's creepy. It's a good theory, honestly, that one.
Yeah.
There's also a possibility, there's some weird story about a man named Joseph Monfray, who was apparently shot to death in 1920 by the widow of Mike Pepitone, who was like one of the last victims of the Axeman.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody can really find any evidence like that she was tried for this or, you know, death certificates or anything like that. So this might just be an urban legend.
Mm.
But that's it. That's the Axeman of New Orleans, baby.
Wow. How is it possible for a story to be both chilling and hilarious?
I don't know. I think it was somebody who like got bored and of just killing people and he wanted this new challenge, so he wrote this. Or it was just somebody trying to insert themselves into the case.
Yes, we see a lot.
We'll never know, though. Yeah.
Yeah. It's nuts that things like this, these large phenomenon, go unsolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that there was a night where people literally played jazz for their life.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, if I was there, I would be at your house 7 o'clock, be like, bitch, get out of the house. We are going to a dance hall right now. We will not be caught not jazzing it up.
No, absolutely not. And I won't be walking home until the sun comes up because I'm scared of an axe.
Exactly. You and I will be arm in arm, an axe in our offhands.
No, because if you have the axe, then he's going to steal it and kill you with it. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm just providing him with the thing to kill me.
Exactly.
His hands are like axe magnets. You won't be able to hold on to it. It'll just fly out of your hand and into his.
Yeah. And you know what else is going to fly?
What?
Us, as we fly out of New Orleans and into the sky, past the clouds, and into a Podmoth Media Network ad break.
Whoa!
Hey, what's up, you guys? I'm Catherine.
And I'm Haley.
And we are Saturdays Are for the Ghouls,
A podcast on the Podmoth Network.
We cover all things spooky, like horror movies, true crime, the supernatural, and spooky stories.
In the most chaotic way possible.
So join your favorite ghoul friends every Saturday wherever you listen to podcasts. And become a spooky babe! So spooky babes, we'll see you
In your nightmares.
Well, now that we've fluttered out of New Orleans, I think that it's time we kind of soothe ourselves from such a disturbing and
hellish,
frankly, hellish story. Yeah. And my topic today is more of a question. And I ran this by you because we were just, sometimes Katelyn and I bounce topics off of each other if we're feeling uncertain as to what to do. And we started talking about lemmings and
yes,
how
we
there
did.
was a myth. Yeah. And Katelyn didn't know this, but there's a myth about lemmings. Content warning that lemmings commit mass suicide, which isn't true. It is not true. It is fake. But then that got me thinking about animals and death. and whether the question I typed into Google was, do animals know about death?
I bet they do, most of them.
Turns out that they do. And before we get into it, I'll just list off my sources here. So we've got our favorite, one for the home team, Smithsonian Mag, Slate.com, Cell.com, which is the host for an extremely helpful article, Psychology Today, Wikipedia, The Washington Post, and PBS.org.
All reliable sources.
You know me, I like a reputable source.
I love PBS. God damn it, I love PBS.
We all do. So, I want to start off with a concept that I found out about while researching for this topic, and that is comparative thanatology. What do you think comparative thanatology means?
Comparing how other species perceive things?
Very close, how humans and other species view and receive death.
Oh, specifically. Okay, yeah.
Yes, specifically death. And it's interesting because this field includes, of course, biology, medicine, forensics, psychology, social anthropology, all to look at this perspective of individuals' lives within different species, how they perceive and react to death.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what an interesting subject, because that's right on brand for us, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
So it seeks to ask the question, to what extent do other species share aspects of a human concept of death? And do they grieve the way we would perceive grieving?
I'd like to know.
Yeah. Grieving in animals, I came to find out, is something of a hole and a new space in science at the moment. Because a lot of scientists are pretty skeptical about death and grief-related behavior in non-human animals. And there are only a few kind of landmark studies in various different species that show that grief is something that, non-human animals share with us. So awareness of mortality has been, historically categorized as something that's only a human trait. But there's a growing collection of anecdotal stories about animal behaviors that kind of show us that animals do actually have a more detailed and nuanced awareness of death than we thought. This is a story that you and I both know a bit about, is, of course, the orca.
Oh, the orca.
Is it Talaquam?
I don't know.
Anyway, this is an orca that is also known as J35 in the scientific categorization, and she gave birth to a calf on July 24th. And this 400-pound calf that was born only lived for about a half an hour, unfortunately. This was in 2015.
Yeah, I was going to say, what year was this again?
This was 2015. And scientists also think that she had lost 2 other offspring since 2010.
Oh.
So they think that this might have been an emotional breaking point for the orca.
Oh my god.
And basically, this orca carried the body of her baby for over 2 weeks, swimming around with it. And scientists have come to refer to this as, quote, a tour of grief.
Oh.
And scientists often minimalize and scoff at the way that people anthropomorphize animals, because something humans love to do is to relate and to want to put their emotions onto something else. We see a toaster with some googly eyes on it and we're like, oh, it's a person, look.
Yeah, we love to categorize.
Yeah. But the researchers say that, if you look at this whale's behavior, you really can't interpret it any other way, because there's this woman, Deborah Gills, who is a killer whale biologist with the University of Washington. And she has a quote that says, quote, "This is an animal that is grieving for its dead baby, and she doesn't want to let it go. She's not ready."
Mm.
And I think that that's really interesting, because there have been other instances of orca whales doing this, but not for this long.
Yeah.
This is way longer than other whales have done this.
Yeah, it's so sad. I remember kind of seeing this story unfold and just being like, oh, how long is this going to go on?
Yeah, it breaks my heart. And the scientists were actually very worried that, like, this process had been detrimental to her health. But it appears that after she abandoned the body, she was still in good health. So that's extremely interesting that we see this in whales. But that's kind of not the only time, of course, that we have seen death-type rituals in animals, but also in insects.
What?
Yeah, this blew my fucking mind. This is a process called necrophoresis, and it's basically, since ancient times, it's actually been recorded that social insects, like bees and ants and termites, will remove dead colony members from the communal nest, and dead members of the same species. There's a term, conspecies, that I might use throughout here, and conspecies just means of the same species.
Okay.
So when, like, a bee or an ant or a termite encounters dead members of its species outside of the nest, they may also start this process and investigate the death of that other bee or ant or termite, and they'll run away. They'll be frightened by it. And individuals that have died within the nest are quickly removed and disposed of elsewhere. And there have been, like, early anthropological accounts of ant funerals and ant cemeteries, which is basically how we discovered this behavior, because what they do is that they take out the dead member of their colony, and there are actually specialized members of the colony, which are called undertakers, who do this task.
A little bug undertaker. Oh my god. I want to see that. I want to see.
He wears a little tie.
And he's carrying like a little headstone or something and a chisel. I don't know.
I mean, literally, like, this is the facts. Like, they grab it with their mandibles and, like, drag it outside the hive, and then they fly up to 100 meters away until they just can't, like, hold it up anymore. And then they, like, abandon the corpse. And they may also eat them.
Well, yeah, I guess. They're
Sometimes
bugs.
they eat them.
They're nasty, so.
Yeah. But in other cases, they will take the corpses and cover them up with soil or leaf fragments.
Oh, that sounds like a burial.
It sounds like a burial, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes.
It's just fascinating because we see these different types of rituals spread out through completely disparate species. Because birds, corvids, like crows and ravens, also have rituals and strong reactions around death. What they do is that they gather around, if they find another, like, dead member of their species, they'll gather around it and start making what is known as, quote, cacophonous aggregations.
Are those noises?
Oh yeah, big noises.
Yeah.
They sit around the dead member of their species and crow like ever-loving shit. They just caw and caw and caw.
Yep.
They have done studies that show that they can distinguish, like, different types of species. They know when one of them is dead and when it's something else. They did this with these scrub jays, who also do a similar thing. When they find a dead member of their species, they'll caw really loudly, and it'll actually attract a bunch of other scrub jays to come and stand around and caw as well.
Huh.
And they will sometimes take the body away. What they did with this study was that they would put different stuffed, like, taxidermied birds to see if it elicited reactions from these scrub jays. They tried a stuffed owl, which elicited these, loud sounds, but they also stole the owl.
Okay.
A dead, like, scrub jay that was, like, not stuffed, that was just, like, put out there, also elicited these reactions and was also stolen. But they did this with a pigeon as well, and they did not take the pigeon, And then when they tried this experiment with pigeons, they don't really pay attention to dead members of
They're
their
not
species.
into it.
They're kind of dumb. These smarter birds will mourn and start this, like, you know, process of, like, loudly grieving this member of their society. But pigeons are like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Either they're mean or they're dumb.
Or they're carrier pigeons, which we love.
Yes, carrier pigeons we do love. And, of course, we can't really talk about animals that grieve unless we talk about primates.
Oh.
Well, they are our closest relatives,
Yeah.
so it makes a lot of sense that they have stuff around death.
Yeah.
There was an interesting study done by psychologists Dorothy Cheney and Robert Seyfarth, and they described how wild adult female baboons in Botswana experience, like, really elevated levels of glucocorticoid, which is an indicator of stress following the loss of a relative due to a predator. And females in the same group didn't experience such a loss, show normal levels. So this definitely indicates that they are aware of this loss. And after this, like, predation event, they saw that a lot of these females who had lost a grooming mate would go and seek several other grooming mates and kind of hop from, like, baboon to baboon to baboon, which to me was like, oh my god, she's hanging out with her friends. Like,
Oh, yeah. Yes.
or looking, like, feeling lost. Like, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's sad.
She's getting support from other baboons.
Exactly. And in another primate study, in the Thai forest, there was a fatal attack by a leopard on an adolescent, like, female chimpanzee. And when other chimpanzees found her body, they vocalized loudly, and the males engaged in, like, really aggressive displays. And some of them were trying to drag her body, like, short distances. And a few of the adults, you know, were giving her physical contact and grooming the corpse. But the infants of this family were not allowed near the corpse at all. They prevented the infants from going near the corpse.
Interesting.
And there are other instances where chimpanzees have been seen using tools to clean their dead, which is just very unnerving if you think about, like, how, you know, many steps through evolution later, you get a mortician. Like,
a mortician is just a fancy term for a monkey.
well, I'm just saying it's interesting to see where that comes from, to kind of look into the roots of, you know, our species through the eyes of another species.
Yeah. There's always going to be somebody has to take care of the dead. That's always going to be a reality in every species.
Exactly. And it's interesting that those niches form in other species.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it all throughout time, you know, that people are sectioned off. You know, people who deal with the dead are kind of sectioned from society. It's interesting. But of course, we cannot talk about animals and death without talking about the animal that has the most associations with death. What animal do you think that is?
Well, I know the answer, so I don't think I should say.
I want you to say it.
Elefantes.
It's elephants! The gentle giants!
I love elephants. They are so cute and so smart.
Yes, they are considered to be some of the smartest animals. Two elephant experts who I'm going to be referencing through a lot of this, Shafira Goldberg and George Whitmire, they wrote a very respected paper about elephants and death, and they say, quote, "Elephants show broad interest in their dead regardless of strength of former relationships with the dead individual. Such behavior may allow them to upgrade information regarding their social context in this highly fluid fission-fusion society. The apparent emotionality and widely spread inter-individual differences involved in elephant responses to the dead deserve further study."
Yeah.
So basically what they're saying is that, like, elephants have a very keen awareness to death and how it impacts their lives. So, like I was saying, most ethnologists who study the behavior of animals view elephants as one of the most intelligent animals. Elephants have a wide variety of interesting behaviors, including grief, learning, play, altruism, the use of tools, compassion, cooperation, self-awareness, memory, and communication.
God, I love elephants so much.
And it's interesting because, like, there's a lot of debate around whether or not elephants have, like, emotions.
Yeah.
Which is like, if they do all of these things, all of those things are, like, motivated by emotion, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely.
At least in humans.
Yeah.
Why I chose elephants is that elephants are one of the few species of mammals, you know, other than the couple that we've talked about before, that have a knowledge of death and have recognizable rituals around death.
What do they do?
Well, like us, elephants have a keen interest in bones.
Uh-oh. I like them so much. I didn't think I could like them anymore.
I know, like if we could have a patron animal. They are often seen gently investigating bones with their trunks while remaining really quiet.
Oh.
And sometimes elephants that are completely unrelated to the deceased elephant will visit their grave.
Huh.
Elephants, when they see another dead elephant, they stop and, like, investigate it and, like, look at it and stuff.
You could almost see it if you put, a human filter on it. It's almost like they're paying respect to the dead.
Exactly. And there's a little story I'm going to tell about this that I found that is about an elephant in Kenya, Victoria, who was a 55-year-old matriarch. Yeah, and they have matriarchal societies.
Love it.
So she died in June of 2013, and those two experts that we were talking about, Safara Goldberg and George Whitmire, they observed several elephants that were huddled around the body, and they noticed that a certain elephant, a 14-year-old bull, was one of the last to leave this little huddle, and Victoria was his mother.
Oh.
When Goldberg and Whitmire examined Victoria's corpse, they found 2 fresh cuts in her cheek at the top of her mouth, and this seemed to have occurred after the death, and they think that the son, that was one of the last to leave, had been trying to lift her up with his trunks.
Oh, you mean his tusks?
His tusks, yeah.
Oh, baby.
There was another elephant who lingered as well. She was a 10-year-old named Noor, and she was Victoria's youngest child.
Oh.
And the thing about elephants is that they have temporal glands on the sides of their faces, which leak from their eyes.
So it looks like they're crying?
So it looks like they're crying.
God damn it.
I know. And even the day after Victoria's death, a lot of the same elephants came back. And over the next 3 weeks, these 2 researchers observed members of 5 different elephant families interacting with Victoria's corpse. Some probably knew Victoria by scent, like they had probably encountered her before. And so they are less likely strangers and more likely acquaintances coming to, like, mourn her.
Yeah.
Which is like old friends showing up at a funeral.
Of course.
Some of them tried to lift up her body and take her away. Some were just sniffing at her. Occasionally, like, elephants perform these dominance behaviors that scientists say are more typical, like around restricted resources, like food and like shade and like mud puddles that they like to roll around in to keep themselves cool. And some of these animals started to exhibit these behaviors when around Victoria's corpse, and they were able to interpret this as that they thought that her corpse was something of value and that they were guarding it like they would guard fruit trees or mud pits or things of value to them.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
I know. And it's interesting because this all kind of goes back to biology as well, how these animals are kind of able to find each other and enact these rituals. There's a study that found that elephants have genes that are more dedicated to their olfactory systems. So they actually have a nose that's about twice as strong as dogs.
Whoa, and we know dogs have a really good sense of smell.
Yeah. And they can actually use this keen sense of smell and their sense of sight to differentiate between different groups of animals and different groups of humans, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Different groups of humans.
They can recognize you.
Yes, exactly. So this is kind of why, there was a bull elephant named Amata that spent like 8 minutes sniffing around Victoria's body and like the dirt around it, kind of like recognizing her. And like I said, elephants have a really strong interest in the bones of their own kind. And they had gone ahead and taken the tusks off of Victoria's corpse because they did not want her body disturbed by poachers.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because even when she was like reduced down to kind of skin and bone, elephants were kind of looking on the places of her face where the tusks would be, because the elephants like to take the tusks from the corpses of fallen elephants, and they will take them with them and drag them. Tusks weigh over 100 pounds, and they'll drag them long distances.
Whoa. I didn't know that the tusks were that heavy.
They're a giant big thing of ivory.
Yeah, I hadn't considered how heavy they would be.
They were like, maybe they just like bones, but they don't do it with other species. Like when we see elephants encountering the bones of like giraffes or like buffalo, they don't react the same way.
Huh.
There's another interesting instance of a family, again, that had a dead matriarch, and all of the elephants in her family were trying to lift her up with their tusks. And when they found that they couldn't, they began to throw leaves and dirt over her body and broke branches off of a nearby tree to cover her.
Yeah.
And then they spent the next 2 days standing around her body.
Oh my god. Just so sweet. And like, okay, we can't move you. We're going to bury you here.
Yeah, and they brought her like food and water.
Oh, stop.
I know. But it's kind of funny because this behavior in elephants is very sweet when it comes to the dead, but can be a little dangerous when it comes to humans, because on a couple of occasions they have buried dead or sleeping humans.
Oh shit.
That they find in the wild.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh no.
There's this story of this Kenyan woman who fell asleep under a tree after she got lost on her way home and was just like, I'll just camp here. And when she woke up, like in the middle of the night, there was an elephant standing over her, like gently like touching
Oh my god.
with his trunk. And she was like, she like was laying stock still. She was like not really sure what to do. She was just like, I'm just gonna lay here. And another elephant arrived, and they began to like scream really loudly.
Oh my god.
And they started doing the thing with the branches. They started burying her with like branches and trees and stuff.
They're like,
and she was fine.
They're like mourning this human that they don't even know, but they think is dead.
And she's like, I'm okay, I'm okay. And they're like, no, why? No. And she's like, guys, I'm fine. It's okay, guys, I'm fine.
They're like, here, you need 12 more sticks and a leaf.
Yeah, just for comfort. So there was a story of an elephant that kept breaking into like these government gardens in Kenya. And unfortunately, the animal was shot because of this, and then was dragged about half a mile away. And that night, elephants came and found the body and dragged it back to the spot where it was killed.
Weird. Ugh.
Yeah,
they're like, no, you're not gonna like, cover this up.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's like so like. It feels angry to me.
Yeah.
It feels sad and angry to me.
Yeah, it's definitely pointed.
Yeah. And, some scientists will kind of insist that these behaviors can't really be termed as grief or mourning because, there's no way to quantify it. And we can't really ask the elephants what motivates their behavior. But I really like this quote that is kind of a comeback of that from anthropologist Barbara J. King, who is trying to she's saying To qualify as grief, surviving individuals who knew the deceased must alter their behavior or routine. They must eat or sleep less, or act listless or agitated. They must attend to their friend's corpse. King's definition of grief is quite useful, but sadness is not a kilogram lighter than grief, and mourning isn't 2 meters shorter than happiness.
That's an interesting
Which is-
way to think about it.
Yeah, like, you know, I just think it's hard to categorize what can be considered mourning or not, you know, when you can't ask someone what motivates their decisions, you know?
Yeah. Huh. Hadn't thought of it that way ever.
Yeah, this was all blowing my mind because, like, within the scientific community, you know, they say that it's kind of possible to posit that there's, like, a spectrum of, like, death awareness in animals. You know, at one side we have kind of the mechanical, more, like, functional responses, like the bees and the termites and the ants who have to remove, you know, the dead members of their colonies, so they just do it. And then there's the other that are more, like, emotional, where we see things like the elephants and the chimpanzees who block certain members from seeing a corpse or who visit a corpse multiple times. And I thought that there was just a very interesting quote from this article, this PBS article, that says, quote, "Grief is not just a response to death. Some people we know die, but we don't grieve. Sometimes people we love decide to walk out of our lives, and though they remain alive, we grieve. We simply terribly miss them. Grief isn't solely about life or death. It's mostly about loss of companionship, loss of presence." And I thought that that was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, this is all like oddly comforting in a way, especially when you're someone who's like actively going through grief. It's comforting to know that other people experience grief all the time, but then not even that, but other species, almost every species grieves in some way. And so you're never alone if you're grieving. I don't know.
Exactly. No, exactly. And, you know, another point that Barbara King brings up is that she says, quote, "Grief results from love lost," end quote. And so I kind of came to the conclusion that to ask, do animals grieve, is not the right question. It's to ask, do animals love? And I think the answer is yes.
Oh, I'm a puddle on the floor.
And that's my story.
That was great, Soph. Man.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sad, but also, like, warm in the heart.
Well, it warmed my heart, too, because I came to a similar conclusion as you that, like, humans, and you specifically, are not alone in your grief.
Yeah.
You know? Every, you know, death is a thing recognized by all those who live, you know? And it made me feel very connected to animals in that way.
Yeah. I'll let everybody in. Right before the end of 2020, like a few days before, I found out that my 85-year-old grandpa had died in his sleep. And I do grieve his loss. Just, you know, it's horrible. But it's also what I've been saying, and what my mom, his daughter's been saying, is that he's free. He doesn't have that horrible disease anymore, dementia. And I really like to think of it that way. So grief sucks. We're always here for the grievers, and here for the grievers. God, what a weird way to say that. But basically, I mean, just
we have love and support for you, is what I think we're trying to say.
That's exactly it. I empathize with you if you're going through a loss, which a lot of people are. All right, you sweet, sappy boneheads.
All right, you sweet, sticky boneheads.
All right, we love you. Have a good day. Appreciate your bones.
Yeah. Go check out some pictures on the Instagram. check out our store for our amazing mug that can hold any liquid. And buy that bone.
Yeah, if you see a cool bone, you want to put it in your house. If it's an animal bone, buy it.
Go for it. I hope you guys are feeling good going into this year. We love you so much. Thanks for listening and for supporting us through 2021 and through 2020.
Yes.
Thanks for supporting us, period. And we look forward to another wonderful year with you guys.
Absolutely. Bone. Voyage. Sorry, that was a nasty one. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anything Bones. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook at Anything Bones Podcast, or email us at anythingbonespodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you to Nick Kruger for our spooky music and Stephen Vetteroff
At Chubby Scrubby on Twitter,
for our jazzy vocals, and thank you to Camilla Franklin
at Camilla Strader on Instagram.
for our beautiful bony artwork. Please rate, review, and subscribe.
In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have just mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe.